Whether it's bad planning, bad luck, bad timing, or bad inventions, well-intentioned bad decisions have plagued history for thousands of years. Welcome to Historic Hindsight. Hello and welcome to Historic Hindsight. This week we have another animal episode for you. All right, Tommy, we're going to talk about the Four Pests campaign. So what does that involve?
Oh, Johnny, I am more than excited about this one. So the Four Pests campaign. So this is China's decision to basically look at several things that get considered pests and eradicate them, and everything's going to go happily, and nothing bad could ever possibly happen, right?
So their version of Terminex.
Their version of
getting the little shit out of your house that doesn't do anything and is just taking up space.
Yep, this is their version of Terminex or our version of DDT. You know, it's perfect. So this is China's war on pests was a part of their first actions that were taken in the Great Leap Forward from 1958 to 1962.
Now, is the Great Leap Forward one of those misnomers where they're not actually taking any leaps forward?
They intended to take leaps forward,
okay.
but it didn't go quite as planned. So the Great Leap Forward was part of Chairman Mao Zedong's Communist Party of China's policies to change China from a largely agrarian economy into a communist industrial economy. So basically, stop farming, let's start producing shit.
Their industrial revolution.
Their industrial revolution, yep. And all these policies that push us in that direction. So of these policies that included the state-owned agriculture making private farming illegal, it also had state-owned manufacturing, increased manufacturing capabilities, and statewide health renovations, which is what the Four Pests campaign was primarily a part of.
Sounds like a great plan.
On paper, but it was ultimately a very...
which is kind of
the thing, yeah. On paper, it sounds like a great plan. It was ultimately a very expensive catastrophe. So, a part of the healthcare renovations was the Four Pests campaign, aimed at ridding China of their what they deemed the four vile pests, which were rats, flies, mosquitoes, and sparrows.
Okay, that's pretty typical. The sparrows is kind of
sparrows is a bit of an odd misnomer, but the flies, the rats,
but birds
mosquitoes
in general are kind of pests and can eat a lot of shit.
And these are also damage. These are the same sparrows that we have in the United States that are like literally everywhere. Steal other birds' nests, and they are to a degree kind of a nuisance bird. The campaign is also known as the Smash Sparrows campaign or the Eliminate Sparrows campaign because the campaign mainly focuses on these birds because, believe it or not, birds are a hell of a lot easier to mess with than, say, rats or flies or mosquitoes.
You can shoot them. There
you go, Johnny.
They're in the air. Like
you can shoot them. So you're at home might be thinking, what the hell happened? How did we get here? How did a country declare war on a bird once, but twice?
Yeah, and why do they care about these pests? Like,
right.
Why did they all of a sudden become such an issue that they need to take care of them?
Exactly. So Mao Zedong, who's the chairman, or known as Chairman Mao, was the Chinese Communist revolutionary who was the founding father of the People's Republic of China, which ruled from 1949 until his death in 1976. Okay. Of course, the People's Republic of China still exists, but that's when he was
right.
After Japan surrendered to the Allies in 1945, the Chinese Civil War resumed, which had been ongoing since 1927. So basically,
I love that so much. So Japan came in, and they're like, we're occupying you now. We're in war, and we're here. And they're like, oh well, shit. Okay, well now we'll deal with this and fight this. And then they left, and they're like, all right, guys, back to our war.
Back to our war. Yep, exactly. And that's exactly what happened. They had a civil war that was going on between basically your either pro democracy, quote unquote, to use the term loosely,
right,
to this communist idea, because there was a lot of communist revolutions going on in the early 20s and late 20s. Stupid Russia. Anyways, so yeah, they had their war. Japan invaded. They were like, well, let's fight Japan instead. And then immediately once Japan's defeated, let's go back to kicking each other's asses.
Back at it.
So on October 1st, 1949, Mao proclaims that the foundation of the People's Republic of China, a single-party state, is now in existence. He claims victory, like, woo, I won the Civil War. Well, kind of, because over the next decade, Mao basically attempts to try to centralize control, and he violently throws in the opposition. Basically, this is your standard big C communist approach, where if you don't believe what I want you to believe, you're in the gulag. You know.
Yeah, they come in, they stick a flag in the ground, they say this is ours, and people start to say I disagree, and then you make an example of those people,
and then people tend to stop saying
anybody else disagree?
And you hear crickets.
Would you like to go to some like-minded people? We have a space just for you and yours.
It is pleasant, free, 3 hots in a cot.
That's right.
Or it's maybe hot. Not 3 hots.
It is hot, and there's at least a couple cots. Mostly it's just a shed.
Oh, and you get to lay on a dirt floor. Yep. So by 1958, Mao basically is centralized power in China. Things have sort of calmed down with this whole, mass extinction of anybody who opposes him. And he starts focusing on the monumental task of transitioning China from an agrarian culture into a modern industrial society, which is a monumental task because although China has about a bazillion people, for some reason, having these people work to build things wasn't normal just yet.
I mean, you got to feed all those people too, though.
True.
So that's hard to do.
Yeah, I mean, you do need a lot of food.
And you have to convince those people to stop making the food that they need to eat to go make something else somewhere else.
True. Fair point.
That's going to be an issue.
Fair point. So much like today, China's health system isn't exactly the greatest in the world.
You don't say.
And they might have some issues, including but not limited to malaria, plague, and starvation. I mean, we've only got the coronavirus going on right now.
Have they?
Whatever.
Well, I mean, did they try just grinding up rhino horns or tiger bones or elephant
tiger
penis
penises and all that stuff? Yeah, they sure did try all that stuff.
And that didn't work?
Those are the traditional methods to alleviate those, Johnny, and they're not working the way that they want them to, at least.
That's interesting.
So Mao, he deems that rats are responsible for the plagues, mosquitoes were responsible for malaria, flies were responsible for the typhoid, and sparrows were responsible for starvation because the sparrows were eating the crops.
I love how just categorical that is. Just, yep. Guys, I solved all these problems. Malaria, mosquitoes. Typhoid, flies. Starvation, sparrows. So easy.
We get rid of these things.
Rats, they're the reason for the plague.
Yep, we get rid of these. Problem solved. We're back to
all of
square
our problems
one.
are solved.
Although, if they would stop eating the damn rats, maybe they wouldn't have this problem. Like, if they would stop eating the bats, maybe we wouldn't have coronavirus. I literally watched a YouTube video yesterday, Johnny, of a Chinese woman eating a bat. At no point in time in my life have I ever looked at a bat and I went, that looks delicious. I'm going to eat it.
I mean, have you seen, like, the insects and shit they have at their markets?
Yeah, I know.
There's the scorpions and, like...
but again, maybe this is why they should have just stuck with agriculture and not gone to industrial society.
Yeah. I mean, rice, they have that.
You've got a bazillion people that live there. Maybe focus on feeding them before we do anything else.
Maybe just start farming, like, chickens and cows and stuff.
Right? So that's
got to be so much easier than rounding up a bunch of scorpions and bats and shit to breed. And
I imagine a bat isn't a hard thing to catch.
Well, and then when you cook it, what are you getting out of it?
It's like a tiny little hamster.
There
can't be much meat there. Yeah, it's like a chicken wing.
Yeah, per bat.
That's not.
You get a chicken, you get 2 wings, and really 4 if you count flats and drums.
Right.
And you get the lay. I mean, China, figure it out.
Well, Mao tried to figure it out, Johnny. So in 1958, in the spring of 1958, he officially starts the 4 pest campaigns, basically saying, "Look, we're going to get rid of rats. We're going to get rid of flies, mosquitoes, and sparrows. Kill them all. Have at it." Sparrows are actually heavily targeted as they're to be blamed for the starvation in China, and Mao
they're the easiest to get rid of.
And they're the easiest to get rid of. And Mao says that birds are public enemies of capitalism, which is the most communist thing. Anything that doesn't go with your thing, it's capitalist.
I'm sorry, but if bats can be God's creation to destroy the Japanese and help America win a war, then I don't see why bats can't be a capitalist creation.
Or birds,
Or birds, the sparrows can't be a capitalist creation. I don't,
So the specific sparrow that we're targeting here that lives in China is what's called the Eurasian tree sparrow. It is 5 to 5.5 inches long with a wingspan of 21 centimeters and a weight of 24 grams. These aren't big birds.
I don't want to nitpick, Tommy, but how are you going to go to 5 and 5.5 inches long with a wingspan
of 21 centimeters?
21. How are you going
to go from inches to centimeters? I don't know, Johnny. I'm sorry. What is that? 21 centimeters? That's like a inch and a half.
I don't know.
It's something like that.
It's 1 inch is 2.54 centimeters. I know that. Do the math in your head now.
Oh no, that's way. Yeah, do that. Figure that out. That's way too hard for me to figure out. Anyways, 9, so I don't know. And here's some stupid, boring fact. You don't need to know this, so ignore me for 2 seconds if you want. But sparrows are unique because there's no difference between the plumage of sexes, which apparently is unique when birds. Most birds have a difference between males and females.
Tom, that's literally the most interesting thing that you've taught me during all of our podcast episodes.
Somehow I doubt.
And that's the one that you told me to ignore.
Is that really the most interesting thing?
I think that's fascinating.
Okay, well, great. The sparrows don't have a difference between the birds' sexes. So there you go.
How do they attract their mates? Do we know? You didn't dig that deep.
I did. Okay. I'm sorry, Johnny. I didn't dig that deep.
That's fine.
I don't know. God, that would be hard. Because imagine, like, if you're walking around, like, if humans, like, everybody look like a man or everybody look like a female.
Well, I mean, even just with birds, like, most of the time when they attract their mates, it's the colorful plumage and it's the difference in the brightness of their colors and everything else, and that's what they do. Maybe they give gifts. Ravens and stuff give gifts, and there's some other birds that, like, create nests and collect shiny objects and stuff for.
I'm doubting a sparrow does that because they usually just steal the damn nest from other birds.
Well, they might steal the shiny nest.
Oh, there you go. Look, I found you this new house.
Bunch of crooks.
Asshole birds.
Good thing China killed them all.
Yep. So they could, allegedly, they could eat up to around 4 pounds of seed per bird per year, which sounds like nothing, but I guess if there's 1 billion birds, that could matter.
Well, so I saw that stat, and I started looking at it, and so I saw that stat, and I started looking at it, and that's basically, so three birds do 1 pound of seed per month, basically. Okay, if you break it down that way. So 1 pound of seed for 3 birds every single month. But yeah, sparrows are in just droves.
Yeah, there are millions of them.
And so if you have a couple million, all of a sudden that's a couple million pounds of seed every month.
But maybe get a scarecrow. Those tend to work ish.
Yeah, I mean,
or just run out in the fields and bang some pots and pans together or something.
Or a tennis racket.
well, Johnny. So
bat, cricket bat. I don't know. What were they playing in China back then?
In the 50s?
Well, I mean, surely cricket had made its way over after the English
maybe,
occupation.
But it's communist China. I don't think they're having time to play for anything. They're starving at this point. So what's the official plan here? The government actually encourages contests among enterprises, government agencies, and schools in cleanliness, and would provide non-material rewards to these agencies that handed in the largest number of rat tails, dead flies, mosquitoes, and dead sparrows.
Simpsons did it. They did it with the snake invasion.
You're right.
They went in with clubs, and they killed all the snakes, and they brought them in for the bounties.
Yeah, I wonder if they based that episode off of that. They might have.
I mean,
Simpsons steals everything from everybody. God, you know what? The Simpsons is really such a good show that isn't a good show anymore, but because of its history, it stays around. They had so many good ideas, but nobody watches it anymore.
Well, I mean, the nature of television's just changed.
Yeah, you're probably right.
We can talk about that another time.
Anyways, sidebar. So the government encourages citizens to then arm themselves with fly swatters, drums, gongs, and guns as tools to improve the state health. Gongs, guns, everything. Just banging gongs. Well, and that's what they did. So the citizens found it easier to go after the birds than rats or mosquitoes, because they would just go around banging pots, pans, gongs, or just shooting the damn birds in the face. Yeah. But what they did with their gongs and the pans is that they would bang them so long, so loud, and so often that the birds wouldn't have a chance to roost, to stop flying, and would just fall out of the sky dead with exhaustion.
Oh, that's brilliant.
That is a brilliant way to kill them.
That's like humans have been doing that for ages. Like back in 10,000 BC or whatever, when we were hunter gatherers, like we had the endurance hunters that would just chase animals, and they wouldn't let them rest, and they would just until they could just walk up to them and just slit their throats, because the animal would just be dead of exhaustion or nearly dead of exhaustion.
Yep,
humans are jackasses.
We are jackasses. That's what we did here, and it was quite effective. Although you would think, okay, if we're killing these sparrows, maybe let's eat them. I mean, because it's a bird, so it probably tastes a little bit like a chicken wing, maybe. I don't know.
I mean, as if China has ever cared about what they were eating.
So you would think they would be eating these things. Why would we starve? Yeah, might as well at this point. Anyways.
Since they're the cause of starvation, they may as well be the solution as well.
Right, exactly. So they would also go to the nest, destroy the eggs, snap baby chickens' necks. And when all else fails, they just shoot the birds in the face.
Yeah. I hate that I know this, but baby bird heads and chicken heads are very loosely attached. Went down to a farm, Nate and Liz's farm.
Did you pet a bird too hard and the head fell off?
No, Nate was showing me they had just gotten in a bunch of chicks for their, the chickens to breed and everything, and they had a sick one. And obviously, if you have one sick one, you have to dispose of it because it will get the rest of them sick and kill it.
Much like China's doing with the coronavirus victims. Yeah.
And so he just grabs one and he's like, yeah, and the quickest way to do it, and he just popped the head clean off.
Oh, Jesus.
Like, didn't break its neck, just boop, the head's off.
Jesus.
I was horrified to learn that.
As I would be too.
So you're all welcome.
Enjoy that at home. So according to a first-hand account, I'm going to quote this one here. At dawn one day last week, the slaughter of the sparrows in Peking began, continuing at a campaign that has been going on in the countries for months. The objection to the sparrows is that, like the rest of Chinese inhabitants, they're hungry. They are accused of pecking away all the supplies in the warehouses and in paddy fields at an officially estimated rate of 4 pounds of grain per bird per year. And so divisions of soldiers had been deployed through Peking Street. Their footfalls were muffled by rubber-soled sneakers, a.k.a. probably Nikes. Students and civil servants in high-collared tunics, and school children carrying pots and pans, ladles and spoons, quietly took up their stations. The total force, according to the radio Peking, numbered in the 3 million.
Of the people
going after these
going
birds.
out making noises. Quietly taking up their stations
and
to go
to ambush the birds,
to surprise the birds.
I love
that they had to sneak up on them, take your positions quietly so the birds that you're about to scare the shit out of.
Yeah, wearing rubber-soled sneakers. So some of these sparrows, obviously, wisened up a little bit, but maybe if I go in a different area where I'm not going to get harassed by pots and pans, I can actually go lay down and rest.
Much like the emus, these animals just ran away.
Ran away. So some of these sparrows actually wound up seeking refuge during this campaign in extraterritorial premises of various diplomatic missions in China. So basically, embassies. Most notably, the personnel from a Polish embassy in Beijing denied multiple Chinese requests to enter the embassy to rid them of their sparrows. They said, "Nah, we're going to go ahead and let the sparrows." So
you're creating a safe house for these sparrows. Let us in so we can bang our pots and pans and scare the shit out of them.
And Poland was like, "No, this is like remembering that Poland is Poland." They're like, "No." We empathize with the sparrow.
Yeah.
We know what it's like to be attacked on all sides. We're going to go ahead and give them a shelter. So what could possibly go wrong? It seems like a great idea. We're killing these birds in droves. This is awesome.
The birds that eat exclusively your food.
Yep.
This is nice. You get rid of them, and then nothing goes wrong.
And it had great support from the population too. Like everybody was all doing this.
They had 3 million people banging pots and pans. It's a community. It's a community effort. It brings everybody together.
Yep.
So like a potluck.
It is a potluck. So 1 year after the implementation of the 4 Pests campaign, China had damn near eliminated the sparrow population.
Mission accomplished.
Raise
the banner.
Let's fly that banner. However, the crop productions were actually still down by 15%.
What's that?
Yeah, they damn near eliminated all the sparrows
that were eating the crops.
Yeah. But in 1 year after the campaign started, the crop productions were down 15%.
What? But the
birds are gone, right?
So the humans were eating more.
Maybe. So right before we get into that, Johnny, I think it's probably a good time let's take our little ad read here, and then once we come back, I'll get to why the crop productions are seemingly going down.
Unbelievably, this episode is brought to you by Nike.
God,
which
it would be great if it was. God, can we just make Nike our sponsor and be like, eh.
Yeah, like they're gonna hear this and send us a cease and desist.
Cease and desist. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. And we're back, Johnny. So like I said, right before we left for a break, crop production is down 15%, even though the sparrows are pretty much eliminated. So in 1959, 1 year after the start of this, So Sing Cheng, I think I'm pronouncing that right as best as I can try. I'm bad at any
Your guess is as good as mine. I took Chinese history in college, and for at least half of the semester thought I was reading the wrong material because the way that our professor pronounced the Chinese names was nothing like the way they were written.
Yes.
And so I'd get to class and they'd be talking about somebody that I have no idea who they were talking about.
It's hard enough for me to pronounce like German,
normal
American, English style names. When I get into anything like Russian, Chinese, Japanese,
where they make different sounds out of their mouths.
It's hard.
Yeah.
But it's anyway. I'm pretty sure it's So Xin Cheng.
That sounds right.
He's a researcher at the Chinese Academy of Sciences, and he began studying all these dead sparrows. Like, okay, look, crop production's down, sparrows are dead. Let's start dissecting these sparrows, see what's going on. He's a famous ornithologist who's a guy who studies birds. He began dissecting the sparrows that were dead and found out that the birds' stomachs actually contain more insects, or mostly insects, specifically locusts, than actual grain.
But locusts eat grain.
Locusts eat a shit ton of grain.
And the sparrows were eating the locusts?
So the sparrows are eating the locusts are eating the grain. So if the sparrows are eating the locusts, which are also eating the grain, it's a balance. There's this equilibrium that exists with animals. That whole bat thing in one of our previous episodes about the bat has no use at all except for, maybe eating all the mosquitoes.
Wait, so you're telling me there's a very complicated interconnected chain that all of these animals belong to, and if you start messing with one of them, you're going to disrupt everything?
You sure will, Johnny. So
somebody really ought to put that all into one cohesive bit of, I don't know, something that people can study,
right?
Like a subject or matter or something.
Yeah, maybe.
What do you call that?
I don't know.
We'll figure it out.
Anyways, so Xin Cheng, he brought his research up to Mao Zedong and showed him that the sparrows are actually an integral part of the crop protection. And so Xin Cheng pointed out that this was his hypothesis from the very beginning, before this campaign even started. Said, look, maybe we really shouldn't kill all these sparrows because they eat the locusts that also eat a crop, and there are a hell of a lot more locusts than there are sparrows.
So he's basically coming out and saying, guys, told you so.
He's saying, guys, told you so.
Which the government tends to love.
Especially the Chinese government. So Mao did what you would think Mao would do. And
he took his information, analyzed it,
accepted it for what it was,
and then
corrected his program, right?
Went ahead and stopped killing the sparrows, reintroduced a breeding sort of thing for them so they could take care of the locust problem.
Yep. Or what he actually did is halted Cheng's scientific research, claiming that the more knowledge you possess, the more you are a revolutionary.
Okay. But this is the guy who said he was going to revolutionize China.
Yes.
And so he has a revolutionary who he's now.
This is a bad revolutionary, Johnny. See, this is not kind. This is a capitalist revolution.
This is one bringing new knowledge in.
Yeah,
we don't want new knowledge revolutionaries.
Yeah. We only want communist knowledge. We don't want capitalist knowledge.
Okay,
so
that's fair.
So he makes Cheng wear a badge that says reactionary on him.
He has to wear
a badge. Like
piece of flair,
like somebody.
We've seen that before.
Yeah, we've seen it before. Yeah, a couple times. He made him undergo an examination of his ornithological training, which comprised of them being Mao's people, piecing together a bird from 20 different species, and then tested them on it. And when he obviously failed to properly identify this fictional bird, they stripped him of his title, paid him bare minimum wage, and made him sweep the floors and scrub toilets. So basically, they took this elite scientist, probably one of the smartest minds in China, and made him a janitor and paid him bare minimum wages when he couldn't identify a bird that you made up out of 20 different birds' parts.
That seems fair. I'm not going to be the one to tell them it's not fair.
Nope. He would be kept in isolation up until 1966 in a shed while the Red Guard searched his home and would confiscate all of his belongings, including his prized typewriter, which again, it's kind of an odd, how is a typewriter? But I guess in modern context, it'd be like your best laptop or whatever.
Well, not even that though, because a typewriter is not something that most people would have had.
No, especially not in China.
I can see why that would be.
It's still just it shows you when this happened, I guess, in the context of history. Yeah. Cheng actually would, however, be later reinstated, and peace would eventually be restored when his work was sent for publication in 1970, but had to include a long quotation from Mao in his book. So basically what happened is They ostracized him, said he was a nut, tortured him, all that fun stuff, stripped him of everything. And then in 1970, when they realized with his works, hey, he's got something here.
Not when they realized. I think when the greater public started to realize that maybe this guy wasn't so wrong.
Oh, well, it gets even worse, Johnny. I'll get there. It gets even worse because they discovered, way before 1970, they discovered that this is wrong.
Well, yeah, no shit. But that's always the case with, like, with any type of government. They're like, instead of, sorry, I was wrong, I made a mistake, let's fix that, it's, how can I make this look like it was not a mistake?
Exactly. So once his work is sent out for publication, and he agrees to let Mao put a quote in it, who's actually already dead himself at this point. But basically, it's like, look, we'll reinstate you, we'll give you your job back, as long as you publish your book with a love letter to Mao.
Yeah.
As a guy who's been tortured for the last 20 years, okay.
Oh, I mean, well, deal. Yeah. Like, what's it? He wasn't given an option.
No, there wasn't.
He was told that's what's going to happen. So there's this illusion of, we gave him a choice if he wanted to publish a book or not with his letter from Mao.
Yeah, exactly.
There was no choice there.
So by 1960, crop production was actually down by 70%.
Wow.
Due to
what?
Can you guess why, Johnny?
I'm guessing because the sparrow population, since they stopped their program, just exploded.
Or the large infestation of locusts on a biblical plague level of locusts ate everything in sight because they now no longer had a natural predator.
So that was it. It wasn't a bunch of extra birds.
Nope, sure wasn't. By April of 1960, Mao went, I fucked up.
Uh-oh.
Maybe I made a mistake. And he removes the sparrow from the 4 Pests campaign and replaces it with bedbugs.
Okay.
Which is fine, because bedbugs are a nuisance.
Was it just because he had to have 4...
It's a 4 Pest campaign, Johnny. He has to have 4 Pests. He can't change it.
After all the marketing that went into creating
there's posters up,
the
Johnny.
Branding and everything.
Yeah, there are posters. You can't
imagine the cost of having
posters.
The cost of having to reprint those. In that day especially.
I think they just went in with a permanent marker and scratched out Sparrow and wrote in bedbugs.
Yeah.
So,
I wonder if the Chinese character for Sparrow is similar to that of bedbugs, and it made it an easy change to just
maybe just draw an extra line,
stick or a dot or somewhere.
Maybe. So while almost eradicating the bedbug infestation, now the crops would not actually recover, as the locust plague would continue all the way up through 1961. So too little, too late.
Yeah. As the case may be, we always let things go on a little bit too long, and
oopsies. I mean, it's like us when we almost killed out the bald eagle because of DDT. It took us forever to stop that.
Yeah, that was a bad one for a while.
Yeah,
but hey,
so
we got them everywhere now.
Hey, yeah, no, they're even in Indiana.
They're gonna be pests soon.
Probably. We're gonna have to have the 4 Pests campaign in the United States.
Because, man, have you seen the videos of them up in Alaska and shit?
Like eating small dogs?
Oh, just
it's great.
They're opportunistic eaters.
Well, yeah.
And so, like, they're not these badass hunters or anything that we try to make them out to be. They're fucking vultures with a good PR agent.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, if they see
eat garbage, and that's what they do.
If they see your chihuahua unattended in your backyard, there might not be a chihuahua.
Well, maybe, if they're feeling up to hunting something. Usually they just find dead shit.
Well, yeah, there's that too. So the aftermath here, the campaign would have actually officially ended in 1961 when the Great Leap Forward ends in a financial failure. So in 1961, Mao realizes, I screwed up a bunch of stuff, not only just starving my people, but
just the whole
project.
Great Leap Forward was not
maybe a couple
successful.
of steps backwards.
So they actually ended that campaign?
They ended the whole campaign. Yes, they did, Johnny.
Wow.
The 4 Pests campaign would become the focal blame for the Great Chinese Famine, which was from 1959 to 1961. Oh my God, it's almost as if there's some kind of connection there.
That seems unlikely.
Yeah, and crop, like I said, crop production in that time period fell as low to 30%, so they were only getting 30% yields for what they were planting.
For an already starving country.
Yes. Really not good time for them. And of course, now that they're Chinese, America's no longer supporting them and helping them out.
Right. Yeah.
Like we were in World War II.
Well.
Screw it. Casualty reports estimated that so here we are, casualty report for the how many rats were killed, all that fun stuff, how many people were killed, right? So it's estimated that 1.5 billion rats were killed during this program. 1 billion sparrows were killed during the program. 220 million pounds of flies and over
20 million pounds.
220 million pounds of flies and over 24 million pounds of mosquitoes were killed. I'm dubious of these numbers.
I would like to know where they got those.
Yeah, I'm dubious of them, but that's whatever. It's China. Let them have it. And who's going to be weighing the damn flies and mosquitoes and? Because
how would you do that?
For instance, when I smack a fly with a fly swatter,
yeah,
I'm not usually picking up the remains because there's usually not.
Right.
Most of it's splattered on the wall.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're quote unquote picking up all these, I'm calling bullshit.
No, I'm just starting to not believe any casualty report ever.
Yeah, they're a bit
propaganda,
dubious propaganda. Yep. Chinese reports acknowledge, this is what China is actually acknowledging, that during the Great Famine, an estimated 15 million deaths occurred.
Add a 0.
Probably. Most scholars report that it's probably closer to 30 million, with some scholars going all the way up to 45 million on the high end. So we laugh at Australia's Great Emu War for,
their failure,
but at least it didn't result in, 30 million people dying.
Right. Theirs was a lot funnier.
This was a comical failure.
Because it was just a couple of dudes running around with a machine gun. This is millions of people literally destroying the thing that is keeping their crops alive.
Yep.
And then being like, what happened?
So Chiang, like I said, he would eventually retake his position after Mao's death. Of course, we got to wait for Mao to die because Mao's never going to apologize to him. So wait for him to die, then we'll put him back in. And he does continue his study of birds. It gets published a couple more times. Good for him. On June 19th, 1998, posters were actually seen distributed by China to get rid of the 4 pests.
Again,
although sparrows this time were replaced with cockroaches.
Okay. Well, at least they're moving towards animals that actually, spread disease.
That spread disease and only
problems.
Yeah. I mean, other than being food for some other animals, it's really not.
Cockroaches, there's enough other things that eat them that have other termites and other stuff.
So there is a lot of this obviously had an impact in China.
You don't say.
Give or take here. It does have a cultural impact on China, and there's a lot of cultural references to this in China. So in 2009, an episode of Rosy Business, which is set in 19th century China, and it's a Chinese TV show, it airs, in which a peasant came up with an idea to kill the sparrows to improve crop output, which was meant to be a prank and trick the peasants' owners into starvation. So a show about 19th century China. Some guys
harkening back.
Yeah. And so it's harkening back to it. Yep. And then in episode 20 of Sagwa, which is a Chinese cartoon, which is about a Siamese cat. Which
I think I've seen that actually.
Maybe, have you?
Yeah.
Well, it aired in 2001. It's a children's show.
Yeah.
And the headmistress of the house bans useless animals from the home. And as a result, her banquet is ruined because she does not have enough silk and food because she got rid of silkworms and she got rid of the sparrows that were protecting her food and all that stuff.
So it looks like China's really trying to drive home the fact that you can't just kill all of an animal or it might have some sort of negative impact.
Yeah, they at least learned their lesson.
Well, kinda, because they're still killing all of the rhinos and the tigers and the elephants and everything for their medicines.
Well, that's for erectile dysfunction.
That's true, yeah, which I guess is a greater good.
It is a greater good, because if you can't reproduce, then what's the point of it?
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Historic Hindsight. Every week we take a look at some of the major events that took place during this week in a segment that we like to call This Week in History.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
All right, Johnny. So first up on the list, I've got Pope Gregory the Great would declare that God bless you as the appropriate response to someone who just sneezed. This was done on.
That is great.
That is great. This was done on approximately February 16th, 591.
I never considered the fact that somebody would at one point have to be the first one to say "God bless you" as a response.
Well, not the first one to say it, but the first one to officially in the Catholic Church this is the official response for when you sneeze. So it is a response to the Roman plague of 590. Gregory the Great would become pope in September of 590. So the previous pope dies kind of because of this plague. The plague's running rampant in Rome.
And this pope comes along and he's like, guys, I know how to solve the plague.
Yep. So in February 591, Gregory the Great would declare, I ordered unceasing prayer for divine intercession. Anyone sneezing must be blessed immediately with God bless you.
Man, what a great way to end the plague.
Problem solved. And by 750, this actually becomes common practice in all language.
Yeah.
For most of the Christian world.
Sure.
Yeah. Our next thing up on This Week in History, Johnny, is Marcel Duchamp's painting "Nude Descending a Staircase" causes an uproar when shown in New York on February 18th, 1913. Now, I chose this, Johnny, because when I first read about it, I thought, I just saw the title, "Nude Descending a Staircase," and my mind went immediately to like Puritan American ideology and thinking that this ultra realistic nude painting,
right, a bunch of uptight people who don't want it in public.
Yeah, no. Like the picture of this painting so first off, it's a modernist painting and does not look anything close to anything being a naked anything walking down the stairs.
Okay.
It is a cubist style of painting, a kind of a hybrid between cubist and modernist. It was finished in 1912, and initially the cubists in Paris said, this is way too out there for us.
Yeah.
We don't want it. But the Barcelona cubists were like, yeah, we'll put it on display. And so it initially goes up on display from April to May of 1912. It is submitted to the Armory Show in New York City on February 18th, 1913. And much like my surprise, when the Americans saw it, they went, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
It is just like a tan canvas with shapes. And so the New York Times wrote on February 18th that it resembled an explosion in a shingle factory.
So this is like when in Parks and Rec, when Tom Haverford discovers art and has one commission, and it's just a bunch of shapes, and then eventually he falls in love with it and gets it.
Yeah.
Only nobody fell in love with it because it's just a bunch of shapes.
Because that's it. Explosion in a shingle factory. American comics and the newspapers would parody this for the next few years because we're that bored in 1913 apparently.
Yeah.
And one of the parodies that's included is actually food descending a staircase. Theodore Roosevelt actually gets involved himself, and he is quoted as saying, "There is in my bathroom a really good Navajo rug, which, on any proper interpretation of the Cubist theory, is a far more satisfying and decorative picture. Now, if, for some inscrutable reason, it suited somebody to call this rug a picture of, say, a well-dressed man going up a ladder, the name would fit the fact just as well as nude descending a staircase."
So basically, art tried to come into America, and America said, "No,
it doesn't look like what it says it is, so we don't want it.
We want some of that Renaissance shit. Give me a bunch of oil painting with a bunch of fruit in a bowl. I know what that is."
And our final thing, on a little bit less fun note, Communist Manifesto was originally published on this date, February 21st, 1848.
Oh.
So the Communist Manifesto is obviously a political document that was written by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, although nobody remembers Engels, everybody always remembers Marx, and was commissioned by the Communist League in 1848. It was originally published in London, England, in German. What? Right? It originally published in German, but in London.
Okay.
I don't know who the hell was reading
London's
it there,
like, hey,
but okay.
I'm going to publish this, but I don't want anybody to be able to read it.
So it is in German. And it was during the revolutions of the 1848, which were basically the series of global revolutions where the bourgeois, or AKA your average poor man, went, I really don't like the monarchy anymore. Let's get rid of it. It didn't work.
the Communist Manifesto didn't work?
No, well, the revolutions of 1848.
Oh, the revolutions didn't work.
No, and the Communist Manifesto is actually relatively obscure at this point. I mean, it's out there and it's known, but it doesn't become a big factor until right around World War I. So about 50 years later, it becomes really big. And it's the key reason why the Russians, do their thing and have their revolution. And,
yeah, there's all that.
And become the communist nation that they were. Or communist. It is basically, in its sum, the Communist Manifesto basically just describes the history of class struggles, saying that there's always rich putting a boot on poor people's feet, and shows how capitalism is eventually going to be naturally replaced with socialism, which 200 years almost later, nailed it, because capitalism doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. And that's This Week in History.